SDA tenant rights and responsibilities. Overview. These procedures outline the rights and responsibilities of tenants and how Able Australia will inform tenants of those rights and responsibilities. Tenants have the rights and responsibilities in Able Australia properties arising from a number of documents, including state and territories' residential tenancy laws, and for NDIS participants with SDA in their plans, the SDA NDIS Act rules and terms of business. Rights. Under residential tenancy laws operating across states and territories, tenants have the following rights. To be given a copy of their residential tenancy agreement and/or SDA service agreement, a condition report completed by the landlord/agent, and any other information required to be provided at the start of their tenancy. To have premises rented to you in a reasonable state of cleanliness and fit to live in. To be given rent receipts upon request, unless you pay rent into a nominated bank account. To be offered at least one means of paying the rent for which you do not incur a cost. To be given at least 60 days written notice of rent increases. To have quiet enjoyment and use of premises. The SDA provider/agent must not interfere with your possessions at the premises. You have reasonable peace, comfort, and privacy. To have reasonable locks and security. To have reasonable repairs and maintenance done. To be repaid for any urgent repairs as defined in the state law that you have paid for. To apply to the relevant administrative tribunal if the SDA provider has broken the tenancy agreement. To be given written notice of the SDA provider wanting to end the tenancy agreement. To be notified of the change of name and address of the SDA provider or agent. To refuse the SDA provider access except in certain circumstances with proper notice. Not to be unlawfully evicted. Under the NDIS Code of Conduct, tenants have the following rights. Freedom of expression, self-determination and expression. Privacy. Have supports provided in a safe and competent manner with care and skill. To raise concerns about services received and have concern acted on promptly. To live free from violence against and exploitation, neglect, and abuse. To live free from sexual misconduct. In addition, SDA tenants have the right to make a complaint about the services they receive to Able Australia and to the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission. Responsibilities. Under residential tenancy laws operating across states and territories, tenants have the following responsibilities. To fill out the condition report and give the SDA provider/agent a copy within 7 days. to pay rent on time, to care for the premises, where applicable, to pay for any damages caused by you or your guests, to report the need for any repairs or maintenance, not to make alterations or additions without the SDA provider's permission, not to alter, remove, or add a lock or security device without SDA provider's consent, not to use or permit the premises to be used for illegal purposes, not to cause or permit a nuisance, not to interfere with the peace, comfort, or privacy of other tenants or neighbours, to give correct written notice when you leave, to leave the premise in a similar condition to when you rented them, except for normal wear and tear. In addition, SDA tenants have a responsibility to advise Able Australia of organisations and/or individuals who are providing supported independent living or other support services in the property, and advise of any changes to the providers. Informing tenants of their rights and responsibilities. Able Australia will inform tenants of their rights and responsibilities through provision of a plain English guide to rights and responsibilities, see Appendix A, inclusion of information in the tenant handbook, inclusions of rights and responsibilities in the residential tenancy agreement, verbally advising clients as part of their orientation to their new home, discussing rights and responsibilities at the regular SDA dwelling meetings of tenants living in a dwelling. The meetings will also provide the opportunity for tenants to raise any concerns. Related policies, legislation, or other resources are Residential Tenancy Act 1997 for ACT, Residential Tenancy Act 2010 for New South Wales, Residential Tenancy and Rooming Accommodation 2008 for Queensland, Residential Tenancy Act 1997 for Tas, Residential Tenancy Act 1997 for Vic, Able Australia Conflict of Interest under the NDIS policy, and Able Australia Feedback and Complaints policy. Appendix A, Resident Rights and Responsibilities. Rights and Responsibilities. Important information for residents in specialist disability accommodation. This sheet is written in an easy-to-read format so that most people can understand the words. This sheet is about Able Australia and who we are, your rights, your responsibilities, your privacy and personal information, and how to give us feedback or make a complaint. Our services, who we are and what we do. Able Australia is a not-for-profit organisation providing housing for people with disability, including specialist disability accommodation. Specialist disability accommodation is housing for participants in the National Disability Insurance Scheme, the NDIS, who have very special housing needs. The NDIS provides funding towards the cost of the housing as part of the participant's plan. The funding is given to the housing provider directly, not the participant. If you live in one of our properties, you or someone acting on your behalf will sign a residential tenancy agreement. You will have to pay rent and some other charges, for example, electricity. The residential tenant agreement details what you will have to pay. Supported independent living. Each property has links with a supported independent living provider. This may be with Able Australia or another provider. You can choose your own. Note, for shared services, you will need to consult your housemates. Your tenancy is not affected by who you choose to provide your support services. Communication. We will provide information in a way that suits your needs and preferences. Your rights and responsibilities. You have both rights and responsibilities arising from you being a participant in the NDIS and as a tenant. Your rights are to get services that meet your needs as far as possible, to be safe from abuse and harm, to expect high quality services, to be treated with respect and kindness, to get information to help you make choices, to be supported in the choices you make, to have your personal information kept private, to have your ethnic, cultural, and religious practices and beliefs and sexual orientation respected, to have your privacy respected, to have help from an advocate or support person if you want one, to have information that you can understand, to ask to see your records, to give feedback or make a complaint. Making a complaint will not change your access to services. To get a copy of your residential tenancy agreement. Specific rights as a tenant include to get a copy of the condition report of the property when you start your tenancy, to have the premises rented to you in a reasonable state of cleanliness and fit to live in, to be given rent receipts upon request, unless you pay rent into a nominated bank account, to be given at least 60 days written notice of a rent increase, to have reasonable locks and security, to have reasonable repairs and maintenance done, to be repaid for any urgent repairs as defined in the state law that you have paid for, and to be given written notice to end the tenancy agreement. Your responsibilities are to fill out the condition report and to give landlord or agent a copy within 7 days, to pay rent on time, to care for the premises, to pay for any damages caused by you or your guests, to report the need of any repairs or maintenance, not to make alterations or additions without permission, not to alter, remove, or add a lock or security device without consent, except in certain domestic violence situations, not to use or let other people use the premise for illegal purposes, not to cause or permit a nuisance, not to interfere with the peace, comfort, or privacy of neighbours, to give written, correct notice when you leave, to leave the premise in a similar condition to when you rented them, except for normal wear and tear, and to tell us who is providing supported independent living or other services in your home. Privacy and your personal information. We record information about our tenants and their services. We keep these records safe. We follow the privacy laws. When we need to, we work with other agencies to plan services for you. We will not share information with anyone else unless you ask us to share this information, you give consent, your life or someone else's life is in danger, we think there is a serious threat to your safety or someone else's safety, or the law tells us to. You can ask to see your records. Feedback about our services. We welcome your feedback, including compliments, complaints, and suggestions. It helps us to improve our services. We will have regular meetings of residents, people who live in the dwelling, and undertake surveys to get your views on our staff and services. Complaints. You can make a complaint to Able Australia about the property you live in, the services we provide, for example, maintenance of housing, the way you've been treated by staff, and the way your personal information have been used, disclosed, or dealt with. To make a complaint, call 1300 225 369 or email feedback@ableaustralia.org.au. You can also make a complaint to the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission about our services or workers, such as whether our services or support have been provided in a safe and respectful way, whether our services have been delivered in an appropriate standard, how we've dealt with a complaint, how we have dealt with an advocate or carer of an NDIS participant. Complaints can be made to the NDIS Commission via phone 1800 035 544, in writing, by email, by completing a complaints form on the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission website, which is www.ndiscommission.gov.au, in any other way that best meets the needs of the person making the complaint. Our staff can help you make a complaint. Tenancy issues. You also have the right as a tenant and can raise issues with the administrative tribunal in the state where you live. For example, rental bond, rent increases, unpaid rent, termination of tenancy agreements, compensation, repairs, and other breaches of residential tenancy agreement. Advocacy agencies. An advocacy agency may be able to help you if you have problems getting the services you need or making a complaint. People with Disability Australia is one advocacy service which can help you. Disability Housing Advocacy Service. Phone them on 1800 843 929 or email housinginfo@pwd.org.au. Disability Housing Information Line. You can call them on 1800 843 929. Email housinginfo@pwd.org.au. These services are free. To find out more about advocacy, visit the National Disability Advocacy Program. Their website is www.tinyurl.com/pvlb2hy. contact us. If you want to know more, you can talk to our staff or visit our website www.ableaustralia.org.au. You can call us on 1300 225 369. Email feedback@ableaustralia.org.au.